this is a show called What's Trending, and if there's one thing that's trended this week, it's the Beckhams. I mean, from memes to videos to AI-generated content, it has been everywhere. I think we should start with kind of the newest development, which is that Posh Spice has now had her first UK solo number one. I mean, what says British culture more than sending Posh Spice to the top of the charts because her son has like rinsed her on Insta? What do you think?
It's so funny. It was only a story you would get in British media. It's only a happening you would get in British media. I mean, she'll be grateful for the royalties, surely, because the fashion business doesn't always do that well in profit. So, this is going to boost the bank accounts. I know that David's had to bail her out a few times. So, this is one positive upshot for her of all this negative press from her son. It's been quite astonishing, though, hasn't it? I mean, I've been quite
Mm.
amazed at the level of detail that he's gone into about things that have gone wrong and what she's done wrong and the terrible dancing at the wedding. No, I mean, everybody's got an incredible vision of what that was, right? I certainly
Mm.
have. And the internet has had many ideas this week. I'm sure everybody's seen the memes and the videos. But I mean, from a sort of branding PR point of view, and I know you'll appreciate this, it's really a problem for the Beckhams, this, right? Because they've tried to curate and carefully control their brand, of their family brand, over many, many years. And this has just kind of like capsized it overnight.
Mm. What do you think about Victoria hitting number one, though? Do you think that that means that the public backs her, or do you think people are just finding new ways to take the mick out of the whole situation? So, oh, you know what would be funny? Let's get her to number one.
No, I think, look, the Spice Girls are still kind of 90s heroines, People love them. People are very affectionate towards them, all of them. And I do think people generally, I think what people like about this story is that it gives you a new shade of Posh. She has this she had this staid image for years, and then there was a revelation that she actually had a really good sense of humor. And now there's a revelation that she does drunk mum dancing, potentially up her son on his wedding day. And people just love it. They're like, oh yeah, we've all got a mum like that, or we know somebody like that. So it's, in a weird way, it's actually making her more relatable. And I think that's why it's fed into this kind of pop culture frenzy around getting the single that they have done to number one.
Yeah. So, okay, broader then, on the Beckhams, do you have a side on it? Like, I got to be honest, like cards on the
Mm.
table. I'm Team Brooklyn. If you can take sides in this, like I really feel for him. I think with some of the things, I actually think it's quite interesting that Posh Spice is getting Victoria, sorry, is getting a lot of the flack here for her dancing. Whereas, like, one of the most damning things for me was the allegation that he flew in for David's birthday, but David said, no, I'm only going to see you if you come to the big public party. And he said,
Right.
no, but I do want to see you. I've traveled all this way. And he was like, okay, well, only if your wife's not coming. Like, to me, that is one of the most damning
Yeah.
allegations, but everyone's so obsessed with Victoria Beckham's drunk dancing. I don't know. I thought that was a bit weird. What is your kind of overall take?
Well, my take on that is that it's pure misogyny, isn't it? It's like we've gone after the woman and the two women actually in the story, and not the two men. I mean, yeah, what David Beckham, if that is true about David Beckham saying that, that's appalling. What is meant to be a family celebration, you're still trying to turn it into the perfect PR pitch. I mean, look, there's been loads of stories over the years about all of them, and many of them have never reached the light of day for obvious reasons. And I won't repeat any of those allegations here, but they obviously don't have the image that they've been portraying. I mean, it was obvious to anyone with kind of half a brain cell that that's not really how the family life works, right? It can't be that harmonious, and it isn't. And the other thing is that I think it's significant that it's after David has been knighted, because think about how many years he's been banging on about this knighthood, and he's really taken umbrage at the fact that he's like one of the last people to get knighted of his generation, of brilliant, brilliant humans. And I just think it's really significant that now it's sort of like blown up in his face. He got what he wanted, but at what cost,
Mm, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I do feel for Brooklyn, and I know a lot of people have said about, oh, nepo baby, but I can have sympathy for someone that I have nothing in common with,
Yeah.
in the sense of, look, this is a kid that has grown up a millionaire and really famous. Your parents are David Beckham and Victoria Beckham. Like, the only way to go is down. Like, you're not going to
Yes.
top that, number
Yes.
one. Number two, when you have got that many, when you've grown up a millionaire and then went on to marry a billionaire heiress, like the paths you can take in life are actually quite small.
Yeah.
Like he can't come and work for a PR agency and come home and say, "Oh, mom, guess what? I've got a new job. I'm starting tomorrow. It's 40 grand a year," which for
Yeah.
most people that's above minimum wage. If he came in and said that, Victoria would be like, "I've just spent that on lunch. What are you talking about?" So the amount of things that he could probably do when your parents are already two of the most famous people in the world, you've been born into that. It's like, well, what are you going to do? It must be really hard. And I don't like that people have poked fun at, oh, he was a chef and then he was a photographer. It's like, look, the kid is trying to figure his way
Yeah.
out, like
Yeah.
what to do in life. So I do actually, as much as you can have sympathy for someone that was born into that much privilege, as they say, I do have sympathy for him, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I actually really agree with you. What's really upsetting is that they've got all that money and all that privilege and all that power and all those opportunities and connections, and they haven't been able to guide him in a way that's allowed him to find what he's good at. That's
Mm,
shameful. I mean, look, for any of us, as me and you as parents, that's the job, isn't it? You're meant to be guiding your children to kind of fulfill their best, and they
mm.
they haven't done that for him, and that I find upsetting. Yeah, I completely agree with you on that.
And I think other things that come with being them, probably not being able to trust anyone. Like,
Yeah.
if he's got a crush at school, does the girl like him back because she wants to be famous? Or are those texts going to get leaked? Or if you were in a workplace and you said something, oh, well, I worked with Brooklyn Beckham and this is what it was like and blah,
Yeah.
blah. It's like, it can't be quite nice. And he did talk in the thing about anxiety. I'm like, I probably, I think it's just weird that people, and I think it says a lot about British culture, that we look at him and think, Nepo baby, you've had everything handed to you. What have you got to complain about? It's like, but he's only had money and fame handed to him.
Hmm.
Like, maybe it's more the quiet life or love or not
Right.
something where everything can be quickly photoshopped. And that if you mess up ever and someone gets it on camera, you're on the front page, baby. Like,
Yeah.
that's, there's
Huge
things that
pressure,
he hasn't had.
huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is huge pressure. I completely agree with you. And what he hasn't had is the decision to not be famous, right? He's never
Yeah.
been able to choose his fame. There's lots of similarities with Prince Harry in many ways, who's obviously been in court this
Mm,
week. I think it's really interesting that they both have this. They both had no choice about the family they were born into, like none of us do. But they also didn't
mm,
seemingly have a choice to leave it. Which
yeah.
most ordinary people, if they really don't want to be attached to their families, they just leave and nobody says anything about it. It's their choice to be estranged. But in both of these cases, they weren't able to do that, and that's why you have these
Yeah.
ruptures later on.
You've worked in PR. What do you think the Beckham brand should do next? Because I've got to be honest, I was quite surprised that a statement or an Instagram post wasn't put out. Something to the effect of, recollections may vary. We're
Hmm.
so sad to hear Brooklyn's truth. We love him. The door is always open. Like something
Right.
like that. I was a bit surprised that they didn't address it. And the first we heard from Victoria was her wishing Emma Bunton a happy birthday, which
I
just
know.
seems slightly tone deaf.
I completely agree with you because they'll obviously have crisis PR people doing this work for them, or presumably they will have. Again, like they're kind of half-witted about it, they will definitely be having a crisis PR team do the work. And the tactic that they've obviously been told to use is just don't say anything, never explain, never complain, like the royals, right? It's really, really odd. I completely agree with you. If your child comes out and disses you, whether it's right or wrong, you've got to have a response. Otherwise, you do just look kind of heartless. I'll be honest.
And PR hat off, parent hat on.
Yes.
If your child, God forbid, turned around and said, I want nothing to do with you, do you have to respect it and just make clear that the door is open? Or would you be straight on a flight to Montecito, wherever they are, and be banging on the door and being like, I'm not getting out of your face till we sort this out?
No, you have to let them go because people do not decide on a whim to become estranged from parents. It's usually a
Mm,
catalogue of behaviours over many years. What you really need to do is look inside yourself and look back to what's gone on, and maybe you did get a lot of things wrong. Maybe you weren't taking them into consideration. Maybe you weren't even listening properly. You got to really look at yourself as a parent, and I pray that that day never happens to me, because I think it must be the absolute worst thing to go through almost. Apart from actually
it's
losing them dying, like I can't imagine
yeah.
anything else being worse, really.
I know. I think as a parent, there's a bit that gets you about this where you're like, God, I really
I
hope that
know.
doesn't happen to me. And I think as well, maybe You can almost understand it in a time before where kids were just to be seen and not heard, and they just, go out and play, shut up, or
Right.
I'm going to hit whatever. But I think our generation put so much effort into, are the kids okay? Have they got ADHD? Like, are their social lives right? What's their screen time like?
Yep.
All this stuff, to the point where I said to my other half the other day, I was like, you know what? If any of our kids grows up as an adult and has like an issue with how we did things and a gripe, I'd be like, you know what? You can just piss off. Like the amount of like no sleep I got, the amount of
Right.
overthinking I did, the amount of really trying to get this right, and you want to say that you've got a problem, you can get lost. I actually think I would go the complete other way. I'd be like, look, I'm going to pack your
Absolutely
suitcase
not.
for you.
Yeah, you were
Enough.
brought up so well. We did everything for you. Exactly. I totally get it. I totally get it. I
Um,
mean, but yeah, it is sad, but I think the reality is that if you try so hard to control your public image, as they obviously done as a couple, whatever's actually gone on with Brooklyn, eventually somebody will come along and, prick the bubble. And the worst person to do that is a family member, a person that does actually genuinely know you.
Well, I mean, we both work in the media, and I'm sure, like me, hear lots of rumors about lots of people,
Right.
Beckham's included, where you're like, my God, that'd be wild if true.
Yeah.
Really? Obviously, won't repeat any of them here. But then some of those rumors do turn out to be true. Like the Philip Schofield thing, I knew years before that came out,
Yeah, I
like
definitely heard
5 years
rumors of
before.
that.
I knew, and I was, it's, I don't even know how I knew it. Like, like enough people had just told me over the years. It's like, well, what am I going to do with that information? Like,
Right,
it's about
right.
people I don't know.
No.
I'm probably being given fourth-hand information here. Like, what should I do? So it is from me. If any of the stuff that I hear is true, it's like, well, to keep that out of the papers, like that's skillful PR. But I guess my wider thing and what I want to put to you is like with it being a family member, is there always a risk, even if with the best PR strategy in the world, that one of the other brothers just gets drunk one night and starts shouting his mouth off on Instagram about his brother?
Well,
Like there's
yeah,
things you
yeah.
can't control when it's not a company, is it? It's real
No,
people.
that's the
Some
point.
of them are young people that drink and have access to a phone. Like anything could happen.
Well, yeah, and hasn't Cruz already come out and stood up against Brooklyn
He's
on the side
He
of his
said something
parents?
before recently about, I think it was when they were blocked or something.
Right, right, right. So you're completely right, and this is exactly what happened with Harry. Yes, Harry was a royal, and he was meant to never complain, never explain. But guess what? He was also a human being, and one day he'd had enough. And this is why dynasties of families in the media are very rare, because you need everybody saying the same thing, towing the same line, signing the same agreements, deciding to sign the same private life away. I mean, the only people that I look at that seem to do it very well are the Kardashians, I'll be honest, because they exploit the tensions in their family for the drama element when they do the TV series, but they don't brief against each other. Or they certainly haven't done
Yeah.
yet. And the only time they kind of came a cropper was when Caitlyn Jenner, who had been Bruce, transitioned, and then that there was a little tension there. There was obviously a tension there, but it all got smoothed over. It still all got smoothed over, and everybody was allowed to go
Mm.
on and move on with their lives, and just ne'er the twain shall meet. So whoever does their PR, I mean, it's like next level, isn't it, in terms of like how it's executed?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I was saying in my office this week, I was like, you know what? Whatever happens, will like the PR strategy will be so good you could write a case study on it, because
Right,
at the end
right.
of the day, like how sometimes like politicians come out with stuff and you're like, did you not run this past like at least your cat? Like, because that is just wild what you've
Yeah.
tried to do or say or get away with. Becomes like it's very thought through.
Very,
So,
very.
and I think maybe we'll come to look back on it and say actually them saying nothing was the best thing that they could do,
Right. Well,
or
that's
who knows?
right. So, because the idea is that if they don't say anything, if you don't say anything, the idea is that that gives you a kind of gravitas. We're not stooping to
Yeah.
the level of to get involved. That's how, and just don't say anything, it'll blow over. Is also, I mean, that is a very common PR strategy, but it's just
Yeah.
difficult when it's in light of revelations or not by your son.
So just before we move off this then, do you think that this does damage to brand Beckham? Because like I say, on this whole situation, I'm like, I feel for Brooklyn. I actually feel for Brooklyn more. And he is the child, sort of, I know he's a young adult, in this situation. You're older, you're the parents, you chose this, he didn't choose it,
Right.
choose it, to your point. Here's the thing that I never, whilst I feel like that, I can also enjoy Bram Beckham, I can also enjoy Victoria and David. and accept them as imperfect people that have got something wrong. It's not like I'm now like, I hate them, and if I ever see them,
No.
I throw eggs at them in the streets. Like, look, you're not perfect. I think you've probably done some bad things in your life. I think you probably do care a bit more about your public image than you should. I don't think you're terrible people. I'd still go for a drink with you. You know what I mean? But how much damage do you think it does to the wider brand in general?
Well, the problem is if the element of the family brand you're trading it on is perfect family, harmonious family, family is everything, then it does damage that element of it. It doesn't damage, Victoria's reputation as a 90s icon and a great fashion designer. It doesn't spoil David's reputation as one of the best footballers. There are individual elements of their brand that still work, but the family element, which is what they've spent so much time in the past couple of years, honing, that is definitely spoilt now. And they're going to need to think, like, all right, fine. Maybe the strategy is going to be say nothing for a while, let it all die down, get something else coming on the front pages. But then what are they going to do? Because presumably, unless they're reconciled with Brooklyn, this stuff will still always be there. So I
Mm.
mean, what are they going to do? Admit that they made mistakes? I don't know. Eventually they will have to comment on it, surely.
Well, my worry would be if I were doing their PR, I'd be like, if you don't say anything and almost put this to bed, you now run the risk of every time you do a podcast, every time you're out
Right.
in the street, like someone could just randomly ask you
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah.
Whereas if
Agreed.
you put it to bed in a meaningful way, and it's clear like that is all you're going to say on it, like that then means like you can always say, oh, I spoke about this with Oprah or whatever, like I'm not getting back into it, what, I think that would be more my worry if you
Well,
don't do anything about
it's
it.
interesting that you say that because maybe the reason they're so quiet is because they have done a deal with someone, a magazine or a TV presenter, and that in the next few weeks we're going to see this one-off big interview with a pair of them. That might happen.
Maybe. I mean, the only worry I would have is Brooklyn is totally rogue. So if you've got to be careful because
Very, yeah.
he could release the wedding video. He could release the
Totally.
screenshots.
Totally.
He could say, oh, well, they think they're perfect. Well, what about this? And drop a
Right.
huge bombshell. So, they've also got to be like, you know what? We've got an unknown quantity that is already running his mouth. Like, let's be careful.
And he's had a lot of people this week come out to support him. He's had people like DJ Fat. Maybe you weren't taking them into consideration. Maybe you weren't even listening properly. You got to really look at yourself as a parent. And I pray that day never happens to me, because
Subscribe for more content.